Welcome, everybody, to 6 Feet Ahead, a podcast for funeral homes. And today we're joined by one of the most influential voices shaking up the funeral profession, Ryan Thogmartin. Ryan is the founder of Disrupt Media and Connecting Directors and has a lot of other platforms and things going on in the industry that I'm sure you'll hear about today. Now, these two platforms that I just mentioned have brought social media storytelling, digital strategy to the forefront of funeral service. So he's got campaigns that are reaching millions and a mission to modernize how funeral homes connect with their communities. Ryan is leading a much needed revolution. Let's get into it, Ryan. Welcome to the podcast.
Man, Oscar, that was quite the introduction. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Not a problem. Not a problem. It really is a pleasure to have you here, and it really is a pleasure to finally connect with you. So let's talk a little bit about starting a digital revolution. You founded Disrupt Media in an industry that wasn't exactly tech savvy. And I'm just curious, like, what sparked the idea to focus on social media marketing for funeral homes? Like, how did the profession initially respond to a disruptive approach like that?
Man, I got duped in the death care. So a lot of people have heard that story. I've talked about it on a few podcasts and stuff in the past. But like my father-in-law has a Wilbur Burial Vault franchise. I had a marketing background, sold the company, was looking for something to do, thought he had bank vaults and was going to go sell bank vaults, but ended up being burial vaults. So that's how I got duped in the death care. Started connecting directors in 2007 when I started calling on funeral homes, realizing this massive disconnect between tech, the consumer, and where funeral homes were at. So that was just a personal blog where I was just throwing things against the wall to see what would stick. That morphed into connectingdirectors.com. I wrote about marketing on that publication, and then I started speaking and at NFDA, ICCFA, state conferences on marketing. And then Disrupt was born. So like that's like a span of 5 years in 30 seconds. But how did the profession respond? I'll give you this story. I started connecting directors in 2007. I had a little over 5,000 subscribers by 2009. And the publication's free, but we used to like paywall everything. Like you could get the first couple paragraphs and then you had to sign up for free for an account to get the rest. I just really wanted to build an email list. So it was very intentional why we did that. So the first video, nobody saw me. So that was it. I was writing content. Nobody saw pictures. Like it was a blog and nobody saw pictures. Nobody saw video content. No one knew what I looked like. Any funeral directors that did know me only knew me through me doing sales for my father-in-law's vault company. So there were about 160 funeral homes in Ohio that I would call on. When I did sales calls for him, it was suit and tie, cufflinks, clean shaven, like the whole nine, looks the part. And the first time I put a video online on connecting directors, I recorded it in my basement on a Saturday morning, backwards hat, t-shirt, threw on a webcam, recorded a video, put it out, and I got absolutely destroyed. Like hundreds and hundreds of comments of, I can't believe we ever listened to anything you had to say. You're so unprofessional. You look so undignified. If you walked in my funeral home looking like that, I'd kick you out. And it was just, there was one funeral director in Canada had any sense about him, and he commented, "You guys are crazy." We've literally for the last 2 years read content from this guy every single day. Everybody agrees. There's 5,000 people on here that see his point of view, but now because you see what he looks like, it's untrustworthy. That's crazy. That makes no sense. But that gave me a perspective of, oh, this is death care. This is how it's going to be. And so I went to my father-in-law and I said, "Here's the deal, man. Like, when I do my thing, I'm going to dress my way. When I do your thing, is it cool? Like, I'll wear your suit and tie and do all that stuff. But like for my brand and what I'm going to do, like I got to be authentic to me." And he's like, "Why would you want to do that? Dude, these people hate you." And I'm like, here's the thing. Like, if we're going to create change, and I really think this industry needs change, like the profession is so far behind, like it takes a little bit of disruption. Like you got to ruffle feathers. And I'm like, you know what? If people like me or hate me, I don't really care. But if they listen, that's all that matters. And so is a filtering mechanism. If you couldn't get past the way I looked, then like you probably were never going to listen to anything I had to say. So just filtered those people out. And it worked against me when I started Disrupt for probably the first 5 years. I literally would speak. I remember specifically speaking at the Idaho State Convention. Funeral director come up to you afterwards. He's like, "Dude, that was the best presentation I've ever heard on marketing." And he said, "I will never hire you." And I'm like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can't stand the way you look." I watch all of your video content but I put my screen down so I can't see you. I would never hire you because I can't stand the way you look. I was like, that's cool. That's fine. Hey, I appreciate your honesty. Like that's your prerogative and that works. But that's what I was up against. And I feel like once people realize that it wasn't a gimmick, like I don't dress this way and say the things I say and the graffiti and the loud colors and things as a gimmick. Like it's authentically just who I am. And I've been that way for going on 15 years now that people have seen me, or 18 years with connecting directors. So like it's authentic to the brand. If I'm asking people to be authentic and create content authentically, then we got to be authentic ourselves. And you can't keep doing things the same way that everybody else does them and look the part and expect everything to be radically different. Just doesn't work that way. Just
Yeah,
stay stuck in the
totally.
same routine, do the same thing over and over. Nothing is ever going to change. But that's death care. Like death care is just rooted in this tradition and this history, and I get some of that, but we take ourselves in the space far more serious than the consumer does. And that's starting to work against us.
Yeah. So I'm
So no,
curious.
to answer your question, no, I wasn't accepted. I don't even know if I am now, honestly. It is what it is.
No, definitely. Yeah, I think you're definitely accepted, at least by a good amount of the community, a good percentage. So that's the good part. And I am curious to ask you a little bit about marketing channels, right? Because I know
Yeah,
that you've done the blogging, you've done websites, you and I have spoken, and you mentioned that you had prior experience in banner ads and stuff like this. But it
yeah.
seems like you've focused really on social media. Any reason why social media?
It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's the
Okay.
easiest thing to measure. So when you're dealing with a funeral home, you're dealing with limited marketing dollars and you're dealing with skeptical marketing dollars. So it's a constant proof. It's proof. Like I say that with the understanding too that they'll put money into things that they understand, even if they don't produce results. So there's still funeral homes spending $10,000 a year on yellow page ads. I talk to them every single day. And when you ask why, it's because that's what we've always done. And I know what I'm going to get. It's zero, but I know I'm going to get zero. So I'll put 10 grand into it. If I put 10 grand into social media and it doesn't work, well, then everybody's mad at me because I tried something different and it didn't work. So then it's my fault. If I just keep putting money into the things that everybody else has done generationally and it doesn't work, it's not my fault. It's the market. So
Mm.
we operate out of scarcity in how we market. Yeah, like there's that. Social is just the lowest hanging fruit from how do you get mass exposure for the least amount of spend. When you can create a piece of content that gets millions of views. So like we did the math on a client in Pennsylvania. We took all of their video views from 2024, the amount of time that was spent watching their content. And the case study was around, okay, if we were going to buy airtime on the local television station to get that, reach that many people for that amount of time, what would the cost be based on the current cost of a 30-second commercial? Now, their television station's in a smaller community, so it's $900 for a 30-second television spot. If we added up all the time that was spent watching their video content on social, and the amount of people we reached, we did the math, it would have cost them $900,000 through the television station to reach the same amount of people for the same amount of time. That's crazy. That's unaffordable. It's crazy. And there's no direct response from that. Social, if it's hitting, right? Someone's commenting, they're liking, they're sharing, they can send a message, they can respond right away. You can't do that with any other medium. That said, I'm a huge believer in traditional media. Like we're a full-blown creative agency. We're known for social because it's what we've pushed heaviest because it's again the easiest barrier to entry. It's not hard to create content that works, that moves the needle, that gets engagement. But I still think direct mail works. I still believe billboards work. You just talked to one of our clients on a previous episode that's had wild success with billboards and social. I think those things work. I believe they work. The data supports they work when the creative is right. So if you have a billboard that has a picture of the funeral director on it and it just says this is an ad for a funeral home and the logo, that's memorable and completely different from most funeral home billboards of serving this community for 150 years, 1,000 generations. Here's our building, here's our staff, burial, cremation, aqua cremation, here's our website, our phone number, our email address, corner of 5th and Main. Nobody remembers that. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I would bet my business on the fact that there has never been a funeral home that served a consumer where the consumer came in and said, "We chose your funeral home because you've been here 150 years and the guy down the street's only been here 97." Yet that's the only thing that they want to market. We've been here forever. Nobody gives a freak. No one cares how long you've been there. It doesn't matter. Now, there's storytelling inside of that 150 years that does matter. The time doesn't matter. It's the same reason that a low cost cremation company can open up and 3 months later, still call volume. They're transparent. They speak directly to the consumer. You know exactly what you're going to get. It's in your face. There's a reason for that. They haven't been there 150 years. Nobody cares. I think traditional media works when the creative is good.
Mhm.
Social is a great way. You can mirror those two things. You can marry those two things together and create massive amount of impact with the right strategy.
Totally, totally. Yeah. So I'm curious now, you talk about social. Are there any particular social channels that you focus on? Would it be Facebook? Would it be TikTok? Would it be Instagram? Would it
Yeah,
be all of them?
personally I hate Facebook. It's a lot. I don't like Facebook. I like Facebook, but I don't like Facebook. I prefer Instagram and TikTok personally. But if we're going for where the upside is for a funeral home, it's 1,000% Facebook. The
Mm.
largest demographic, growing demographics, 55 and older. 75% of people over the age of 45 are daily active users on Facebook. 71% of people shopping for death care arrangements are women over the age of 45. So, like, it is where the audience is at. It is a relationship platform. The other platforms are not that. So, from a spend ROI standpoint, Facebook all day long. Now, there's a lot of funeral homes individually having success, funeral directors having success and getting exposure on TikTok, but it doesn't produce any business. It's views. And views are great, but if they're not producing business and it's not even your local community, it doesn't really matter. It's a great testing ground to get comfortable on video, but when it comes to actually growing, Facebook is it.
And do you do it completely organic, or do you recommend boosting those posts that do?
You got to spend money in the platform, but it's organic first. And what I mean by that, if a video is getting a ton of engagement organically, like we don't live in I did some content on this a couple weeks ago. We don't live in the chronological news feed anymore. It used to be Facebook's ranking the 120 people that you engage with the most. And then, that content's going to live for 20 minutes and it's always cycling through. So time of the day of the week, like all of that stuff really mattered. Those things still factor into like when your audience is online or that target demographics online, that still matters. But we live in the interest graph. Like we can see content that was posted a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, because Facebook plays off of our interest now. So the ability to create a piece of content with $0 behind it and get 3 million views, 100% possibility. Like you can do that. Where the paid side comes in is, okay, great, I got 3 million views. Now what? Now what is you've built an audience of people. So let's siphon that audience down to who's your local consumer out of those 3 million. Okay, let's siphon down a little bit more. Who's over the age of 55? Who lives within a 5 to 10 mile radius of the funeral home? Who else isn't gone to your website? They've engaged with content multiple. Like you siphon that 3 million down to that pot of 3,000 people, and then you put money behind that creative with a call to action. Now you drive leads off of that. So there is the opportunity for the paid side of it. That's got to be part of it because that's the targeting. But the organic and growing and getting exposure, organic wins all day long. It's then taking the best performing organic and putting the ad dollars behind it to amplify it.
Gotcha.
Because you already
Gotcha.
have proof that it works. You already have proof. It already resonated.
So let's talk a little bit about the mistakes that you've seen, right? I know that you've seen a lot of funeral home social media pages.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest mistakes or misconceptions that you see that funeral home owners are making online? Like, for example, I read or I heard somewhere where you said that these cheap grief posts really aren't ineffective. So I'm just curious, like, what kind of mistakes you're seeing and why you feel those tactics just fall short.
Boy, we could spend 3 episodes on just this right here. I think number one is just the undervalue. Like the profession at large undervalues like what online marketing can provide for them because they don't fully understand it, and their personal opinions get in the way of growing a business that way. Number one is just that it's just undervalued. They don't see the value and the attention that they can get. Number two is they trust the wrong people. There's brands in this space that have been around for a long time, that whether they're pre-need companies, website companies, whatever, that will go, okay, low hanging fruit is social media. I can get you to pay for all of this other stuff if I throw social media in for free because you want that as well. So we're gonna throw in social media for free, manage it, and that's good enough. Content is king. Yeah, content used to be king, but context is far better. And
Mm.
automated crap doesn't produce engagement. It's again, it's about relationship. So 80% of families that a funeral home serves, there's some pre-existing relationship there. So if your marketing isn't doing anything to build relationship, then it's not working. If you're not amplifying building relationships, then you're missing the mark. So when you create generic content, like there, I am 1000% convinced that there will never be a consumer that scrolls through Facebook and goes, wow, that's a great Helen Keller quote. That's the funeral home I want my family to use. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. It tells me nothing about your business. And so when we use like AI, generic, automated photos of gray old haired couples sitting in an arrangement room, like we're missing the mark. That doesn't move the needle with the consumer. Why? Because the 65-year-old consumer doesn't see themselves as an old white haired couple. The average consumer that's 65 views themselves as they would see a 45-year-old. So we want to use all these old people on content. They don't see themselves as old. They see themselves as much younger. So you actually get a better response using younger people. But that's the stuff when you automate all this crap, you never
I
know.
get it.
So when it's organic, now you can build and speak directly to the consumer. We're so data driven. And I think that's just what the profession at large, the number one problem is undervaluing how you can scale and build through social. And we have case study after case study. I talked to one of our clients on a previous episode that's literally tripled call volume in 24 months, going all in on social and creative and just building brand from 60 calls to almost 180 calls in less than 24 months. That's crazy. But they follow the process. They do it. They create it. They do it. They build brand. They're recognizable. They're a local celebrity. But that we have case studies like that that have repeated themselves over and over and over and over again. So it's just undervaluing it. It's getting stuck in personal preference of I don't want to be on Facebook. I hate Facebook. It still doesn't mean it's not valuable for your business. I did talk to a funeral director that was spending $10,000 a month on or a year on Yellow Pages. And I said, why? And he goes, fear. If I change something and it doesn't work, then it's my fault. If I change nothing, then it's just the market. So there's that. But then I also go, how old are you? He said 55. I'm like, when was the last time you opened Yellow Pages? Oh, I don't. I go online. I'm like, okay, you're marketing to yourself if you're not doing it. But it's just we understand it. It's comfortable. And so the lack of understanding a platform, just the undervalue is that everything falls under just the undervaluing the attention. Or if director going, I don't really want the attention. That's fine, but do you want more call volume? Like people need to know you exist to get more call volume. Best known
Yeah.
is better than best.
Yep. Yep. I heard you say that plenty of times. Curious then on the flip side, let's talk about the right way to do it. You mentioned a funeral home that has doubled their call volume in 24 months. They're doing amazing. They leaned into really creating video content and creating a relationship with the community through their social media,
Yeah.
right? What does that
Yeah.
look like as far as processes are concerned? Because one of the big, I would say, I would imagine that one of the big roadblocks that you get is I've never done that. I've never been on camera creating
Yeah.
content. So how can people who are listening in on this or watching this, how can they overcome that?
I would say this, if you can have a conversation, you can record content. Like if you know how to talk, and so I think about it like this way, like we developed a process where we record all of our video content with clients remotely. So it's like familiar. It's like you and I talking right now. Like you're going to turn this into content, right? There's going to be a minute clip that comes out of this, probably dozens of them. There's going to be 10-second clips. There's going to be 5-minute clips. Like we're recording one big piece of content that can be just broke down into a lot of different things. This is a conversation. There just happens to be something recording it. It's the same way. You sit down with the funeral director and go, hey, tell me 3 things you wish families knew about pre-planning. There isn't a funeral director on the planet that can't adequately answer that question. That's simple, but that's good content. Hey, tell me the purpose of an embalming machine. Hey, if I'm cremated, do I have to be embalmed? If I'm cremated, does that mean no funeral service? Like those are easy questions. Like those are questions families ask every day and they answer in an arrangement process. The only difference is there's a cell phone. Give me a break. If you can't do that, like I'm not asking you to hold the phone up and do this, you're having a conversation. Now, the problem is we're the only company that does that. So like we're the only company that creates organic content. So if you don't have organic content, you are absolutely 1000% missing the mark of what the value of social is. Why video content so powerful is it gets the most amount of engagement across every age demographic on Facebook. Video content is the most engaged with content. So yes, 65 plus are watching video content. 71% of people watch it with the sound off. So if you're recording video, putting it out without captions, again, you're missing a huge part of the audience. There are certain things inside of that, but video content allows you to storytell more than an image does. But you can supplement video content with image content that tells a story. There's ways to do that. There's not ways to automate that to where it's valuable. Yes, you can automate getting content out, but what you can't automate is the storytelling and the relationship side of it that actually builds the business. Nobody's specifically going on Facebook just to engage with a funeral home. You put content in front of them that is relevant to them. An old gray-haired couple and a grief quote is not relevant to them. Video content allows me to build brand. It allows the funeral home to build brand. It builds notoriety, facial recognition. There's more trust when someone can see your eyes. There was a survey done by Funeral Service Foundation, I think 2013, said 80% of consumers surveyed, when they hear the word funeral home or funeral director, think of something negative. It's crazy. That is a massive roadblock wall that you're already up against. But the reason the consumer feels that way is because, well, funeral directors are cold and stodgy, and funeral homes are dark and clammy, and they have ugly wallpaper, and they spell funny, and they blah, blah, blah. We know in the profession all of that stuff to not be true. Sure, there's one-offs, but like for the most part, these people are great, caring, loving, empathetic, amazing people. They've got million-dollar buildings with a lot of money put into making them look nice and smell great. But if we do nothing to combat that, not even combat that, if we do nothing to show the other side of the coin, then the preconceived ideas that funeral homes are cold, clammy, dark, I don't want to be there, funeral directors are cold, stodgy, they're immune to death. I've sat with more funeral directors crying than I have with funeral directors laughing. Crying because they felt, crying because they just served a family that lost a newborn, crying because they grew up with that family, crying because that was their teacher in high school that changed their life. That's crazy. But we hide behind, it's taboo to talk about. People don't want to talk about death. Lies from the pit of hell. The consumer wants to talk about death. They absolutely do. They're just getting educated by somebody other than the funeral profession that's routing them around a funeral director and feeding them things that don't serve the profession. Funeral homes that embrace video content can break down those stereotypical walls. When they do social right, it creates a very different, transparent lens around what a funeral home does, who a funeral director is, and how they serve.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've heard you mention that there have been changes in the algorithm that allows their content to get in front of the right people. Is that right?
Yeah. So the algorithms are interest based, meaning like TikTok set the bar for this, and everybody else has followed suit. Like TikTok pops because you don't have to follow anybody on TikTok. You get on TikTok, it looks at what you watch, and then it gives you more of that. Like it's pretty simple. Like these platforms need people to stay online longer so they can show them more ads. So if I give you content that you don't want to see, you're never going to get on. Like it's going to suck. A Q2 earnings report for Meta showed that there is a 5% increase in the amount of time spent on Facebook in the last quarter. There's a 6% increase in the amount of time spent on Instagram in the last quarter due to video content, due to the interest graph. You know, if you go through 80% of the content in your newsfeed now is content from people that you don't follow. You don't realize it because it's so tailored to what you like and what you already engage with that it feels like you're probably following those brands or that person. So if somebody's engaging with death related content, they've commented on somebody who lost a loved one, they've looked at an obituary, like they're in the right demographic, there's markers of how they've engaged that are related to end of life planning, hospice care, senior living, things like that. And if funeral home's creating the right content, Facebook's going to drop that content in front of that consumer organically because it plays off of their interests. So it's the interest graph. And it's not only what you're typing into the platform when you post, but it's the context of the video. For example, why is it that I can pop into when I'm in Scottsdale at our office in Scottsdale, Arizona, I see content that's very localized to Scottsdale. I see more content from people that I follow that are in Scottsdale, more brands that are in Scottsdale. When I go back to Ohio, I don't change who I follow, but I start seeing more content from the people that live in Ohio that I'm friends with that I don't see when I'm in Arizona. So, for a brand perspective, if I'm talking to people of Riverdale, California, and I go, hey, do you live in Riverdale, California? Have you ever thought about pre-planning? That video is going to reach more people that live in Riverdale, California because of the context of the video. The platform's so good that it goes, okay, they're speaking directly to people in Riverdale, California. So we're going to start showing more of this content to people that match the demographic that a funeral home would want to reach in Riverdale, California. The platform needs you as a brand to spend money and they need the consumer to stay.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. Create what the consumer wants to see. They stay longer. Serve the consumer what they want to see. They stay longer. Brands that create the right content speak directly to that consumer, get more engaged, get more awareness, and you can monetize that.
Yep. Absolutely, man. That sounds amazing. And that's some amazing advice. I think so. I wanted to ask you a little bit about emerging tech, right? You recently had the Unconference, amazing conference, by the way. I loved it.
Thank you.
I think that you really did a bang up job with that. Technology is evolving, and the thing is, and I'm sure you're in this and you see it's evolving really quickly. So we have like video streaming of services, we have emerging AI tools. I'm just curious, how do you see new tech trends changing the funeral profession?
Man, that's such a loaded question, right? I'm a huge believer I'm excited about AI. I'm excited about advances. I'm not excited about automating certain things. And I think that's where it gets dangerous with a funeral home is I'm going to try to automate literally everything that I need. It's so relational and so human touch. But so I think of practical ways like you've got an AI note taker that's in this meeting with us, right? So like you can take the summary of that with the AI note taker and it can pull out like all kinds of trends, right? So you can literally take 30 call transcriptions, throw them in the chat GPT and say, okay, find all the commonalities of every guest. And then you could probably pinpoint all the problems that every brand has that you've interviewed, the profession prop. And now you can create a ton of content. So I think about from an analyzation standpoint, what if you recorded every arrangement with every
Hmm.
family? So you use an AI recorder, and then now you miss nothing. You don't have to try to remember everything. The AI recorder, you can throw that transcription into Chat GPT. It can pull out things that you've missed. It can pull out things that it needs to remind you. It can have all the call to actions. Don't forget to do this and this. And then you could also say, okay, now based off of this, what are 3 things I could suggest to this family for personalization of their services? Well, now it's going to give you ideas based off of the things that family said that you probably wouldn't think of on your own all the way. And so, like, I look at it more of that way. Like, how do you leverage what you're already doing? Use tech to enhance it where you can serve better. I think we run down this slippery slope where a funeral home can go, okay, give me 10 ideas to post as a funeral home. And then I start just copy and pasting and throwing it into Facebook with some AI generated image. That's generic content that
Yeah.
doesn't speak directly to who you are, how you do it differently. So there's ways to use that and really tailor it to your brand. So I'm excited about the possibilities to how you can leverage those types of things to serve better. I think we're past the days where an AI obit writer is this wild and crazy fun thing that's
Right.
pretty standard, that's easy. I had a conversation with our team. We try to think like 10 steps ahead of what should platforms be doing, and we'll analyze everything. So like a funeral home website, gosh, we're in funeral home websites all day long to create content for social. And so what would the ideal funeral home website be? And to me, it's a funeral home website should know whether I'm looking for pre-need or at need before I ever hit the website. Like it should load. If I've gone and I've looked and I've researched pre-need other places and I come to the funeral home website, it should like automatically be able to see my browser history and reformat itself to put pre-needs front and center because it knows that's what I'm looking at. It should be
Hmm.
able to throw up product like, hey, here's urns, here's memorial jewelry. If I've been on Amazon searching for memorial jewelry and I hit a funeral home website, boom. Like, why does it not pull up? I have certain shopping apps that will only, if I try to find a brand that I've never bought before, it's almost impossible. It only shows me the brands that I've bought and that I like and adjacent brands that it thinks I'll like. Like we experience this in every other facet of life. Death care isn't any different. So like when I look at tech, I think of that. I think of sitting in an arrangement room and being able to put on virtual reality glasses, and a family can see exactly what the casket is going to look like at the front of the chapel, where the flowers should go. They can move in, move the vest out. Okay, we want to sit the family here. This is what that's going to look like. Oh, the memorial blanket would go like you can see all that stuff before it ever happens. I also see the value in, hey, you got a family member, it's 6 inches of snow, they can't get to the graveside because they're in a wheelchair. Great, throw on these goggles and you're going to be able to watch the whole service at the graveside. That tech already exists. I think that funeral homes start operating like a normal business. We can't stay in this, we're a funeral home, we're different, and the consumer doesn't want that experience. The consumer absolutely wants that experience. We've just never given them that experience. They're getting it everywhere else. Brands are
Yeah.
growing every single day by shopping experiences and online experiences and connecting in different ways. And death care is not any zero different. Like we stand in our own way. We stand in our own freaking way every day because we're rooted in our own comforts.
Yeah. And I think that what you mentioned as far as like the personalization is really interesting because it's definitely the direction that we are headed in terms, just in the terms of being a consumer and offering a product or service online. And it's what people in, I guess, what would traditionally be SEO are focusing. They're doing like the GEO, AEO, because they
Yeah.
know that it's you. If you were to search, if you were to ask ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI you use a question, the fact that it already knows you and it has context about you, the
Yeah.
answers it's going to give you are different from the answers it's going to give me,
Yeah.
you
Which is
know?
great. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And brands that figure that out and how to get in there and how to tailor those things and create like it sounds like it's like this overwhelming, oh my gosh, why even try? If I'm a funeral
Yeah.
director and I don't understand a lot of this stuff and I undervalue it, I'm just like, F it. Why do I even care? Why do I even try? Yeah. It feels like this is all my time. I can't even be a funeral director. That's not true. There are partners that do all this stuff for you and can manage all of it for you. They need a little bit of your voice to make it happen. You still get to do exactly what you want to do. You can ratchet it up a level, but it's like the brands that embrace what's coming and the fact of, so I've been in death care half of my life, which is crazy. I'm 21 when I started working for my father-in-law's vault company. So 21 years. Like it's funny to listen to funeral directors still talk about, I don't need to do those things because my customer is older and they don't care about those things. The 65-year-old customer that you're serving now was 45 20 years ago. They've had all of this technology. Like that doesn't work anymore. The fact that my customer is old, like this stuff is not new. Like it's been around. So they've used it, they've grown up in some sense of their life with it in their front
Yeah.
pocket. Like that excuse of I serve an older demographic and they don't use this stuff. That is so dumb and ludicrous that you think they lived under a rock for the last 20 years. Get out, man. If they want to see pictures of their grandkids, they gotta be online.
Yeah.
Like my daughter just graduated high school and my wife said, let's make her a scrapbook. And I'm like, why? I'm gonna pull out a scrapbook. Like, but like you're going back, we didn't have prints. Like we're
Yeah.
buying a printer to print photos so that we can cut them out and put them in a scrapbook. Like we don't have photos laying around anymore. Everything lives on a 6 inch device. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Totally.
fact that we serve an older demographic, they're not using, yeah, no, that you've been saying that for 20 years. At some point, you got to stop saying that because the customer's grown up with it. Evolve, gotta, yeah, I don't know. We could talk about that stuff all day long. New tech is great. I don't think that we have to embrace everything. I don't think that everything makes sense. I think that it's right for what your consumer, what you're comfortable with and what your consumer needs. But you have to look at your consumer. And when you live in a really small town and technology isn't prevalent that much, there's definitely different pockets. Like I just traveled back to the East Coast and I'm used to scheduling DoorDash every day for coffee, for breakfast. Like that wasn't an option. I'm like, oh crap, well, what do we do
Ah,
now? But there's pockets of the country where those things don't make as much sense. They're not as relevant.
right.
But what is still relevant is connection, communication, relationship.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing anything to connect, communicate, and build a relationship, then somebody else is. And you're gonna miss out on those connections with that consumer.
Oh, absolutely. And also, as the generations that are coming up age, all of that's going to change. Like I know right now there's a generation that won't pick up the phone and call. Everyone has to text, and everything is done
Yes.
through text. Eventually, funeral homes are going to have to adapt to that. Like this is going to be the main form of communication at some point, you know?
Yes.
I believe so
Yeah,
at
it's
least.
funny because they still do. Our clients text more than they email. They text
Hmm.
more than they call. They're doing it in their everyday life. It's like I used to say they have two personalities or two different hats. Like outside the funeral home, normal consumer, cool mom and dad, cool grandma, grandpa. We got Netflix, we Amazon Prime everything. Like we got cell phones, we text message, we cut the cord and we stream all of our content, DVR, whatever. Walk into the funeral home, old school funeral director hat comes on, and we're like, the greatest marketing thing we do is the paper calendar that we don't even hang up at our house. It's like we forget
Yeah.
about how we operate in the real world and get in this little box, and because it's just comfort. It's comfort, and it's yeah, it doesn't make sense, man. Things
Yeah.
got to change. Things got to change.
Awesome, man. Listen, I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast to actually share so much insightful information. I think it's going to come in handy to a lot of people who hear this. Let me ask you, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to reach out to you?
Pick a platform, search my name, and shoot me a DM. Disruptmedia.co is our website. Got LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, YouTube.
Every
Google me. Google Ryan Thogmartin. Pick whatever platform you want to connect on and shoot a DM.
Ryan, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you. Have a good one.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.